Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So we're going to continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 14. Does anyone remember what we read the last time?
Hare Krishna. We were reading about the Grahasta's life. Narad Muni was telling us about the place. He told us about the place that Krishna is there in everyone's heart as a Paramatma.
Yeah, he's present as the Paramatma, and then therefore just simply by worshipping Krishna, we are worshipping everyone. Right? Okay, thank you. So we are going to go on. Teshva eva Bhagavan Rajams
Teshva eva Bhagavan Rajans
Taratam yena vartate
Tara Ratna Yena Vartate
Tasmat patram hi purusho
Tasmat Patram Hi Purusho
Yavan atma yate yate.
Yavan Atma Yate Yate.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O King Yudhishthir, the supersoul in every body gives intelligence to the individual soul according to his capacity for understanding. Therefore, the supersoul is the chief within the body. The supersoul is manifested to the individual soul according to the individual's comparative development of knowledge, austerity, penance, and so on. In Bhagavad Gita 15.15 it is said, Mata Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his localized aspect, gives intelligence to the individual soul as far as he is able to grasp it. So here Narad Muni is also saying that we are getting our intelligence from the super soul, the Paramatma who is in our heart. Krishna also said the same thing in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 15, that from me come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So Krishna gives how much ever we are able to understand. You know, just like a teacher, same math teacher, the teacher also knows very complicated equations, but she's not going to tell these complicated equations to a 5-year-old child. She's going to just teach them 1 plus 1 equal to 2. So the super soul is also giving the intelligence to us as much as we are able to grasp it, Prabhupada is saying here. Therefore, we find the individual soul in different high and low positions. A living entity within the body of a bird or beast cannot take instructions from the super soul as adequately as an advanced human being. It's true, no? Because the consciousness level is very different when the soul is in the body of a animal or a body of a tree. The consciousness is very, very low. But if one is advanced human being, the consciousness is much more advanced. So can understand more. Thus, there are gradations of bodily forms. In human society, the perfect Brahmana is supposed to be the most advanced in spiritual consciousness. And further advanced than the Brahmana is the Vaishnava. Therefore, the best persons are the Vaishnavas and Vishnu. When charity is to be given, one should take instruction from Bhagavad Gita 17.20. Dhatavyam iti yadana diyate nupakarine deshe kale cha patra cha taddanam satvikam smritam. That gift which is given out of duty at the proper time and place to a worthy person and without expectation of return is considered to be charity in the mode of goodness. One should give charity to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, for thus the Supreme Personality of Godhead will be worshipped. So Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, he's saying that how Everything that we do is affected by these three modes, is influenced by the modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. How whatever we eat can be in goodness, passion, ignorance, our drinking, our speech, you know. So even charity is affected by goodness, passion, and ignorance. So here, Prabhupada is quoting from Bhagavad Gita, what is the charity in the mode of goodness? Given out of duty, at a proper time and place, to a proper person who's worthy of receiving the charity, and without expecting anything in return for this charity, then it is in the mode of goodness. So one should give charity to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, for thus the Supreme Personality of Godhead will be worshipped. We just heard that yesterday we read that Krishna is in the heart of everyone. He is the super soul, and by worshipping Krishna, we are worshipping all the living entities. So when we are giving charity to the Brahmanas, to the Vaishnavas who are engaged in the service of Krishna, like this, Krishna is worshipped and all the living entities are being benefited. In this connection, Srila Madhvacharya comments, Brahmadi sthavanarteshu na vishesho hare kvachit vyakti matra visheshena taratamyam vadanti cha. Beginning from Brahma down to the end. Everyone is conducted by the super soul. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hriddeshurjana tishtati. But because of a particular person's advancement in spiritual consciousness, he is considered to be important. Therefore, the Brahman Vaishnava is important, and above all, the super soul, the personality of Godhead, is the most important personality. So, because the Brahman, the Vaishnava, of course, he's a devotee of the Lord. So, already the super soul is like giving him direct instructions. And that's why he's so important. That's why whatever he speaks is so important. And then, of course, the most important is God Himself, the Paramatma Himself. Okay. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Drishtva tesham mithornirnam
दृष्ट्वा तेषां मिथो नृणाम्
avagyanatmatam nripa
अवज्ञान आत्मनां नृपः
tredadishu harer archa
त्रेता आदिषु हरेरर्चा
kriya ye kavibhikrita.
क्रियायै कविभिः कृता.
My dear king, when great sages and saintly persons saw mutually disrespectful dealings at the beginning of Treta Yuga, deity worship in the temple was introduced with all paraphernalia. So, Treta Yuga, what was the process of perfection?
Deity worship.
No, in Treta Yuga.
Dwapar, is it the yagya?
Yeah, that's right, Yagya. That was in Treta. Huh? But now, here Narad Muni is saying that deity worship was also introduced because the mutually disrespectful dealings. So let's see what Prabhupada has to say. As it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 12.352, Krite yadhyayato Vishnu, Tretayam yajato makhe, Dvapare parichayayam kalav tadhari kirtanat. Whatever result one obtained in Satyug by meditating on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapar Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet, can also obtain in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So Bhagavatam is saying, what Satyug, people were meditating, the yogis were meditating for thousands of years, and the result that they got, we can get that same result in this Kali Yuga by chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In Satyug, every person was spiritually advanced and there was no envy between great personalities. Because in Satyug, generally the mode of goodness was there. There was no envy. There, everyone was spiritually inclined. So gradually, however, because of material contamination with the advance of the ages, disrespectful dealings appeared even among Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Actually, an advanced Vaishnava is to be respected more than Vishnu. As stated in the Padma Puran, Aradhanam Sarveshtam, Vishnu Aradhanam Param. Of all kinds of worship, worship of Lord Vishnu is the best. Tasmat Parataram Devi Tadyanam Samarchanam. And recommended more than worship of Vishnu is worship of the Vaishnava. So this is coming in Padma Puran. Parvati Devi, she asks Lord Shiva, what is the best worship? And Lord Shiva tells her, Aradhanam Sarvesham, Vishnu Aradhanam Param. That, we are worshipping different personalities. But out of all that worship, worship of Lord Vishnu is the best. Then Lord Shiva goes on to say, Tasmat Parataram Devi, Tadyanam Samarchanam, and recommended more than worship of Vishnu is worship of the Vaishnav. Because by the mercy of Vaishnav that we can actually worship the Lord. Without the mercy of the devotee, we cannot approach the Lord. So that's why he is given so much respect. Formerly, all activities were performed in connection with Vishnu. But after Satyug, there were symptoms of disrespectful dealings among Vaishnavas. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said that a Vaishnav is he who has helped others become Vaishnavas. An example of one who has converted many others into Vaishnavas is Narad Muni. So Vaishnav, he himself is Vaishnav, and wherever he goes, he turns people into Vaishnav. Like Chintamani. Chintamani. Wherever the Chintamani goes, whatever it touches, everything turns to gold. So a devotee is like that. Vaishnav is like that. A powerful Vaishnav who has converted others into Vaishnavas is to be worshipped. But because of material contamination, sometimes such an exalted Vaishnava is disrespected by other minor Vaishnavas. When great saintly persons saw this contamination, they introduced worship of the deity in the temple. This began in Treta Yuga and was especially prominent in Dwapara Yuga, Dwapare Parichaya Yam. So Satyug, everybody was in the mode of goodness. There was no envy. But in Treta Yuga, due to the influence of this material world, slowly there became disrespect even among the devotees, even among the Vaishnavas. Those who were not so advanced Vaishnavas were disrespecting the highly advanced Vaishnavas. And that's the reason deity worship was introduced. And still in that age, the method of perfection was still performing yajna, but just so that people could worship the deity and in that way be respectful towards everyone, not disrespect anyone. Deity worship was introduced. And of course, in Dwapar Yuga, which is the next age of Treta, there was even more contamination, more envy. So then deity worship became the means of perfection. And in Kali Yuga, when there is even more envy, in Kali Yuga, worship of the deity is being neglected. Therefore, chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is more powerful than deity worship. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set a practical example in that he did not establish any temples or deities, but he profusely introduced the Sankirtana movement. Therefore, Krishna conscious preachers should give more stress to the Sankirtana movement, especially by distributing transcendental literature more and more. This helps the Sankirtana movement. Whenever there is a possibility to worship the deity, we may establish many centers, but generally we should give more stress to the distribution of transcendental literature, for this will be more effective in converting people to Krishna consciousness. So in Kali Yuga, understanding our nature, the scriptures have recommended deity worship as, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra as the means of perfection. So Prabhupada is pointing out that that's the reason Lord Chaitanya personally did not establish any temples, but he was doing Harinam Sankirtan everywhere, giving the holy name to everyone. So then we may say, oh, but we see the Krishna consciousness movement is establishing so many temples. But Lord Chaitanya personally did not establish any temple, but he had told the Goswamis, his disciples, to establish temples in Vrindavan. We see there are the Goswami temples in Vrindavan, where deity worship is performed very nicely. So, of course, the stress is given to Sankirtan, but the temples are also established so that people can come together and do Sankirtan. Wherever the deity is being worshipped, Aarti is being performed, is accompanied by chanting Hare Krishna. Prasad is being cooked, prasad is being distributed, is accompanied by chanting Hare Krishna. So, Sankirtan is what is the way of perfection in this Kali Yuga. And so that's why it's more important to distribute literatures. But if one is able to establish a temple, manage it nicely, then temple to enhance the Sankirtan, to make to make more devotees, to spread more Krishna consciousness, then the temples are also established. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
So, I just wanted to ask one question.
Actually, your voice is breaking. I can't hear you very well. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me now? Hare
Kind
Krishna.
of. Yeah, it's kind of underwater. I don't know, is it only me or if every...
Oh my
uh,
gosh.
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna.
can you hear me now?
Okay, much better. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, much better.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, much
Okay,
better now.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, I just wanted to ask one question. You know, when we go to the temple, sometimes we hear some people have heard ladies saying Thakurji. Have you heard that?
Yes, Thakurji.
So, what is Thakurji? Because we are not hearing Thakurji in Bhagavatam or anywhere, right?
Thakurji, our Lord.
Lord
Brajbasis,
Krishna, right?
yeah, Brajbasis usually will address Krishna as Thakurji. If you go to Vrindavan, everyone will say Thakurji.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay. But
out
we
of
don't read
affection.
this. Okay, because
Mm,
we don't read Thakur in Bhagavatam. So I'm just wondering. And you know, now Guru Janam is going on, right? So
mm,
every day we are saying Tum Thakur, Tum. So I keep remembering Krishna. Oh my God, his name
mm,
is here or what? So I'll ask you, you know. So
mm.
that Thakur is also Lord Krishna, right?
Well, the Brajbasis call Krishna as Thakurji.
Thakur. Okay.
Yeah, and Guru Nanak will, you see so many places, he says Hari
Govind.
Nam Japya Govind, Gopal.
Yes, Govind. Yeah, Govind
Yeah,
Gopal. Yes.
Hari, he
Yes.
also says Hari.
Yeah, Hari. Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's always referring to Lord Krishna
Yeah, yeah. So
differently.
whenever we have that, you know, that reading of everyday today's verse what has been opened for the day, there is the name Hari and Govind, and also when we are saying Tum Thakur, so Tum Mata Pita and all, so I keep remembering, oh, this Thakur is also Lord Krishna. Here we are giving ardas to Krishna also. So yeah, so just wanted to clarify Thakur. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Text 47, Archayam eva haraye pujam ya shraddha ye hate na tad bhakteshu chanyeshu sabhakta prakrita smrita. A person who is very faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple, but does not know how to behave toward devotees or people in general, is called a Prakrit Bhakta or a Kanishta Adhikari. A Prakrita devotee or neophyte is still on the material platform. So this is the beginning devotee. Beginning devotee gives all respect to God, understands God is in the God is the deity, God is in the temple. So he is very respectful to God, but he is very disrespectful to other devotees. He doesn't know how to properly respect or behave toward other devotees. So this is beginning, the beginning platform. New devotee, new devotee. That's why it's called neophyte. So he certainly engages in worshipping the deity, but he cannot appreciate the activities of a pure devotee. So he worships God, but he's not able to appreciate other devotees somehow. He's not able to give them the proper respect or properly appreciate the other devotees. It has actually been seen that even an authorized devotee who is engaged in the service of the Lord by preaching the mission of Krishna consciousness is sometimes criticized by neophyte devotees. Such neophytes are described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Sarva prani sammana samarthanam avagyaspardhamita spardhadi matam tu bhagvat pratimeva patram iti aha. For those who cannot properly appreciate the activities of authorized devotees, deity worship is the only way for spiritual advancement. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that, sometimes it happens that a new devotee, sometimes what happens is the new devotee may get full of pride, oh, I'm worshipping, oh, I know so much, and he may criticize a more advanced devotee. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, so that's why stick to deity worship. For the beginners, deity worship is very important so that we can properly worship the Lord and gradually purify ourselves so that we do not offend the other devotees. So we know how can we properly respect other devotees. So deity worship is the only way for spiritual advancement. In the Caitaniya Caritamita, Antya 7.11, it is clearly said, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahe Tara Pravartana. Without being authorized by Krishna, one cannot preach the holy name of the Lord throughout the entire world. Actually, this is what holds the spiritual advancement. When we begin devotional service, we are all beginning devotional service, then what may happen is one starts offending other devotees, not able to properly respect other devotees or offend other devotees. Then the spiritual advancement gets, either it becomes slower or it will get checked, it will be stopped, depends on how one is behaving. So here Prabhupada is quoting from Caitanya Caritamrita that one who is not has the mercy by Krishna, who's not empowered by Krishna, he cannot preach the holy name all over the world. It certainly needs great empowerment from Krishna to be able to give the holy name to everyone. We see Srila Prabhupada is specifically empowered by Krishna to be able to do what he did. Nevertheless, a devotee who does so is criticized by neophyte devotees, Kanishta Adhikaris, who are on the lower stage of devotional service. For them, deity worship is strongly recommended. So that's why for the beginner devotees, always deity worship is given so much importance so that we can purify ourselves, we can um, advance gradually in our spiritual life. Any comments? Question? Okay. So then we can go on. Tato urchayam harim kechit sam shraddhaya saparyaya upasata upastapi narthada purusha dvisham. Sometimes a neophyte devotee offers all the paraphernalia for worshipping the Lord, and he factually worships the Lord as the deity. But because he's envious of the authorized devotees of Lord Vishnu, the Lord is never satisfied with his devotional service. So deity worship is especially meant for purifying the neophyte devotees. Actually, however, preaching is more important. Here Narad Muni is saying that although the devotee is worshipping the Lord, but because he's envious of other devotees, he's not giving other devotees proper respect, he's fault finding and other devotees criticizing. So he's envious. So Lord Vishnu is not satisfied with such a devotee. He does not accept his devotional service. It's not satisfied with him. Well, it's not said accept or no, it's said never satisfied with his devotional service. So Prabhupada is saying in the purport that deity worship, of course, purifies, is for purifying us, but preaching actually is, however, more important. In Bhagavad Gita 1869, it is said, Nacha tasman manusheshu kaschin me priya kritama. If one wants to be recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he must preach the glories of the Lord. One who worships the deity must therefore be extremely respectful to preachers. Otherwise, simply worshipping the deity will keep one in the lower stage of devotion. So, Lord Chaitanya, he tells us that we be more humble than a blade of grass, be more tolerant than a tree. So, the scriptures are telling us we have to give respect to everyone, right from ant, even respect an ant, right up to Lord Brahma. Everyone is to be respected. Then what to speak about the devotees of Krishna? They should be given the highest respect because they are worshipping Lord Krishna after all. They are preaching Lord Krishna's glories after all. So they should be given the utmost respect. Purusheshva api Rajendra supatram brahmanam vidu tapasa vidyaya tushtaya dhatte vedam harestanum. My dear king, of all persons, a qualified brahmana must be accepted as the best within this material world, because such a brahmana, by practicing austerity, Vedic studies, and satisfaction, becomes the counterpart body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From the Vedas, we learn that the personality of Godhead is the Supreme Person. Every living entity is an individual person, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the Supreme Person. So we each of us, we all living entities, we are individual persons, and Krishna is the Supreme Person. So a Brahmana who is well versed in Vedic knowledge and fully conversant with transcendental matters becomes a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore one should worship such a Brahmana or Vaishnava. So one who's completely understood Krishna's position, that Krishna is the Supreme Person, then such a person becomes worshipable as a Vaishnava, because he's understood Krishna's position in Tattva. From the scriptures, he's understood that the Supreme Lord is the Supreme Person. So then he becomes a representative. Wherever he goes, he will speak about the glories of God. It's very natural. So such a Brahmana should be worshipped. He's a Vaishnava then. A Vaishnava is superior to a Brahmana, because whereas a Brahmana knows that he's Brahman, not matter, a Vaishnava knows that he's not only Brahman, but also an eternal servant of the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, worship of a Vaishnava is superior to worship of the deity in the temple. So now the difference of a Brahmana and a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is automatically a Brahmana because he understands the Brahman. So Brahmana is one who understands he's not the body, he's the soul, he's spirit, he's Brahman. Okay, so that's why he's called a Brahmana. A Vaishnava not only understands that he is Brahman, that he is soul, but he's understood, I am an eternal servant of Krishna. That's why, because his understanding is higher, he's given higher worship, higher respect. And so to worship such a Vaishnava, here it is mentioned, to worship such a Vaishnava is superior to worship of the deity in the temple. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastre. In all the scriptures, the spiritual master, who is the best of the Brahmanas, the best of the Vaishnavas, is considered to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This does not mean, however, that the Vaishnava thinks himself as God, for this is blasphemous. Although a Brahmana or Vaishnava is worshipped as being as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such a devotee always remains faithful servant of the Lord and never tries to enjoy the prestige that might accrue to him from being the Supreme Lord's representative. So it doesn't mean, where here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastra. He says that all the Shastras are saying spiritual master, he's the best of the Vaishnavas, best of the Brahmana, is considered as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It doesn't mean that the spiritual master thinks himself as good as God. No. If he did, he wouldn't be in that position. He thinks, I am just a servant of the Lord. That's all he thinks. Yeah. In his heart, he never thinks that, okay, I need to enjoy whatever worship I'm getting. I want all this worship. I want all this fame for myself. No. In the heart, he is just wants to worship the Lord. He just wants to serve the Lord. He just wants to please the Lord. He doesn't want to enjoy any benefits as such that he may receive by being in such a position. So we can see that the spiritual master is a representative of the Lord because he knows how to properly glorify the Lord, how to properly worship the Lord, how to properly introduce to everyone the Lord, how to tell us about God. Yeah? That's how he is given such an important position, because he's giving God to everyone. So this is the position of a Vaishnava, and he is respected all over the world for this. And he never thinks himself that he's God. He never wants to enjoy anything for himself. He just wants to always serve the Supreme Lord. So we'll stop here. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you all so much for listening.